For 20 years, a once powerful Mustang lived in captivity. But now, something was wrong. He had stopped eating. The caretakers tried everything: fresh grass, his favorite snacks, and even medical checkups. Yet nothing helped. His strength was fading, and his spirit seemed to wither. Then, just when hope was nearly lost, his ears twitched. He slowly lifted his head as a single sound reached him. A voice he hadn't heard in years. What happened next will astonish you. Stay with us as we unveil an emotional story of unbreakable connections, love, and the extraordinary power of memory. The first rays of sunlight bathed the zoo in a golden glow, bringing the enclosures to life. Birds chirped, lions stretched lazily, and the air carried the scent of fresh hay. The staff moved through their daily tasks, greeting the animals as they prepared for another routine day. But today, something was about to be different. A problem had emerged in one of the enclosures. A 20-year-old Mustang stallion stood still near the fence, his once dark brown coat now dusted with age, his mane slightly unkempt. His name was Spirit, and he had called the zoo home since he was just a young foal. But today, he refused to eat. The caretakers noticed immediately. His breakfast remained untouched, and even his water showed barely any signs of use, despite being offered his most loved treats. Even when presented with fresh carrots, his absolute favorite, Spirit showed no interest. Jenna, the zookeeper who had cared for him the longest, approached the fence, concern written all over her face. "Come on, big guy," she said gently, holding out some oats. "You love these." But there was no response. Spirit's ears barely flicked, his gaze lost in the distance, as if looking at something only he could see. Jenna exchanged an uneasy glance with her colleague, Mark, murmured. Mark sighed, running a hand over the back of his neck. "He's getting weaker. Physically, he isn't ill, but it feels like he's just given up." It was something they had never seen before. Spirit had always been full of energy, running around his enclosure, playing with the younger animals, and perking up at Jenna's voice. But now, it was as if his presence was fading, and nobody understood why. With no clear answers, the zoo's veterinarian conducted multiple tests: blood work, hydration levels, even an ultrasound. But all the results came back normal. By all medical accounts, Spirit should have been fine. He had no fever, no infections, no injuries, and he wasn't refusing food due to old age. He simply had no desire to eat. As the days passed, his condition worsened. His ribs began to show, his movements slowed, and the energy that once defined him seemed to disappear. The keepers watched helplessly as Spirit grew weaker, still unsure of the reason behind his decline. Days passed, and Spirit's condition continued to decline. His once strong frame grew thinner, his ribs more defined beneath his dulling coat. His movements were slow, his energy all but gone. The zookeepers were running out of time, and out of answers. Jenna sat outside his enclosure, watching him with sadness in her eyes. "Why, Spirit?" she whispered. "Why won't you fight?" The team did everything they could. They brought in specialists, adjusted his diet, and even tried playing calming sounds to soothe him. Nothing changed. It was as if Spirit was waiting for something, someone. Then, on a quiet afternoon, something happened. Spirit, who had been standing still for days, suddenly twitched his ears. A faint glimmer appeared in his dull eyes as he slowly lifted his head. His nostrils flared as if catching a scent long forgotten. Then, a voice, gentle, familiar, filled with love, called his name. "Spirit?" It was an older man, his voice shaky with emotion. He stepped closer to the fence, his hands gripping the bars as he took in the sight of the frail Mustang. Jenna turned in shock. "Who?" The man swallowed hard, his eyes glistening with tears. "I raised him," he murmured. "He was mine before he was brought here. I trained him, cared for him, and then life took us apart." Spirit took an unsteady step forward. His legs trembled, but he kept going, his eyes locked onto the man's face. The zookeepers watched in stunned silence. "Hey, boy," the man said softly, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a worn leather glove, the same one he had always worn when feeding Spirit as a young colt. You remember me, don't you? Spirit let out a soft, weak whinny, his first sound in days. The zookeepers gasped. Jenna felt a lump in her throat. Then, something miraculous happened. With newfound strength, Spirit stepped closer. He nudged the glove in the man's hand, taking in the familiar scent, and for the first time in weeks, his eyes truly came alive. Tears streamed down the man's face as he whispered, I never forgot you, boy. Spirit's body was weak, but at that moment, his spirit was stronger than ever. He let out a breath, resting his head gently against the man's chest. The zookeepers knew then. This wasn't about illness or age. Spirit hadn't given up on life. He had been waiting for the one person who had once been his whole world. And now, after all these years, he was finally home.